So this is what progressive overload actually means for natural gains. That is the topic of today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another one. Excited to talk. Hopefully you guys can learn a few things here and apply these things to your fitness and hopefully get some results out of them. Progressive overload is one of those things that is absolutely essential if you are a young, natural, skinny guy trying to build drug-free muscle. If you don't apply progressive overload to your training, I don't care how often you work out, I promise you, you're going to decrease your chances of getting any actual gains. So if you don't want to waste your time in the gym, if you don't want to spend hours in the gym and not seeing any type of results, then this is a good video for you to check out. So real quick, a little bit of background, a little bit of proof. I used to be confused. I used to be stuck just like you. I used to be super skinny myself up until I was like 15, 16. I was pretty skinny. I was pretty much a twig and I had no type of muscle on my body. I've been training for 15 years now, completely drug-free, completely natural. I've taken a few breaks here and there, a few months at a time, even as long as much as a year. But every time I've taken a break, I've managed to bounce back and build my muscle back just as quickly. I've also got over a decade's worth of research in this, so that's research on training, nutrition, diet, optimization, like how to sleep properly, proper form, proper technique. I've studied the sets, reps, different splits that you can do, all types of things. I've also helped multiple clients go from skinny to putting on real size as natties, and I've done the opposite too, where I've helped people who are fat lose weight as well also. So with this video, I'm going to try to give you a clear understanding of how progressive overload can help you grow and put on real natural muscle, go over some mistakes that people commonly make, help you eliminate some of the guesswork, and help you make consistent gains in strength and size. The plan with today's video is pretty much to cut the BS. I want it to be super concise, super short if I can. I'm pretty much going to try and simplify progressive overload for naturals and what it is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. By the way, if this stuff sounds cool for you or sounds cool to you and you like this type of information, I've got an opportunity for you down below. You can check that out in the link in the description below. So let's get right into it. What progressive overload isn't, some common misconceptions. So a lot of people, especially young, natural, skinny guys who are trying to build drug-free muscle, commonly misunderstand what progressive overload actually is. It's not something real vague, and it's not a frantic weight chase either. Pretty much guys think that they hear progressive overload and they think they just got to overload their muscles every time they go to the gym. That necessarily isn't what it is. Although when you go to the gym, you're supposed to increase the weight, you're not like freakishly overloading your muscles and body every single time you go. That's a little bit overkill. So in other words, you're not just adding weight every single workout. It's not filled with just random intensity, like days where you go super heavy and just random intensity whenever you feel like it in the gym. It's not that either. It's also not just doing different exercises every week. It's not just feeling the burn either. Quick story, early in my career, I used to just really focus on like these forced reps that I would try to bang out no matter what. And I'd focus on random exercises, and sometimes this would just lead to me getting hurt. Like I got hurt early in my career from bench pressing, and I was going way too hard, way too much, and that got me hurt, and I was out for a few weeks. I did something similar with overtraining, and I messed up my wrist really bad, and I couldn't lift for a few weeks either after that. I've also dealt with clients burning out with no progress from the misunderstanding as well too. So in other words, I've had clients go to the gym and they push themselves too hard without knowing what they're actually doing, which would often lead to them getting hurt, which in turn would lead to them losing all the gains and progress that they had previously made. So what progressive overload actually means for natural gains, let's go over the core principles. The core idea here is that progressive overload is a gradual systemic increase in demands over time. Body adapts to stress, so increase stress to grow. It's calculated and patient for naturals. The principle, your body needs a reason to adapt. Same work equals no incentive. Basically no incentive to grow. The goal here is to force your muscles to perform more work, but do it in a measurable and sustainable manner. So basically, in a nutshell, progressive overload is if you don't challenge your muscles enough in order to grow each time you go to the gym, they're not going to grow. Basically, like it says here, your body adapts to stress, so increase stress in order to grow. That's pretty much as simple as you can make it. Pretty much each time you go to the gym, it should be a little bit harder than the last time you went. And if you're doing that progressively, or not, if you're doing that consistently every time you go to the gym, plus you are keeping up with your diet, nutrition, and recovery as well, then I promise you will start to see results. So now let's go over the practical strategies on how to actually apply progressive overload, because we already learned what it isn't. We learned what it actually means. Now let's go over some practical strategies of how you can implement it into your training. That way you could start seeing results for yourself. So the main idea here is that there's multiple ways to implement progressive overload, but patience and tracking are definitely one of the key points. I'll make it super simple for you. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different steps you can take, or 5 different ways that you can take in order to implement progressive overload. Let's go over them. Let me minimize this so you guys don't get super confused. We'll do one at a time. So strategy number 1 is to increase the weight. This is one of the primary methods of progressive overload. You can do it in super small increments. For example, if you're benching 135 pounds for 12 reps, maybe the next week you could do 140 pounds for 8 to 12 reps. So let me explain this further. For progressive overload, in terms of strategy number 1, increasing the weight, I'll give you an example. Say you squat each week, right? And say on Monday is the day you squat, and on Monday you decided to squat 1 plate for 10 reps. Sweet, good, super good goal to aim for. But now let's say a week has gone by and it's the following Monday, and don't forget that last week you did 1 plate for 10 reps. So now it's week number 2. Instead of doing 1 plate for 10 reps, let's say you try to add 5 pounds to each side of the bar. Now instead of doing 1 plate for 10 reps, you're trying to do 1 plate plus 10 pounds. So you're looking at 135 pounds versus 145 pounds on the second week for 10 reps. So week 1, you did 135 pounds for 10 reps. Week 2, you try to increase that weight. So your goal is to do 145 pounds for 10 reps. So easy, right? Makes sense. Simple. You just increase the weight between weeks, between workouts, whatever your frequency may be. The second strategy is to increase reps. So you can also increase reps if you feel like you can't increase weights that week. I'll give you the squat example again. So you did your 135 pounds, your 1 plate for 10 reps on Monday. A week goes by. If you feel like you can't up the weight this week, maybe you can up the reps instead. So instead of doing 135 pounds for 10 reps on Monday, the following Monday comes by and maybe you can do 135 pounds for 11 reps this time. So it doesn't matter how big of a jump you're making, as long as you're making a jump each time and making progress. Now, if you can manage more reps than just going up 1 rep than you did last week, that's totally okay too. It's totally perfect. The more the better, as long as your form and technique are also spot on. So if you did 10 reps last week and if you feel like you can do 15, by all means, try to go for 15. The main focus and the main point here is that you're either increasing the weight or increasing the reps, but in a sustainable manner to where you're not getting hurt and you're still maintaining proper form and technique. Okay, that was strategy number 2. Let's move on to number 3. You can increase your sets. I'm just going to stick with the squat example for the rest of this demonstration. That way you guys will have a better understanding for how this works. So you did weight, you did reps. Maybe you can do sets this time. So let's say it's Monday again, you're squatting and you're doing your 1 plate and you do 135 pounds for 10 reps typically for your sets. And let's say you typically do that 3 times. That's 3 sets. So you do 135 pounds for 10 reps and you do that 3 times. Great. That's a good workout. That's your Monday. Let's say a week goes by and it's the following Monday. Instead of doing 135 pounds for 10 reps 3 times, aka 3 sets, let's say you try to do it for 4 times. You try to do it for 4 sets. Boom, there you go. Now you know how to implement strategy number 3, which is increasing sets. Basically, if you can do 1 more set than you did last week, that's 10 extra reps than you did last week, which is amazing, phenomenal. Okay, great. Let's move on to number 4, which is decreasing rest time. This one is one that a lot of people forget about. It's one that you can implement and works really well too. This is something I implement into my workouts and programs all the time. And this is decreasing rest time, and we'll stay with the squat example here. So let's say we go back to our 3 sets of squats for 135 pounds for 10 reps, aka that's also the same as 1 plate for 10 reps. And let's say typically between your sets you take like a 5-minute break. That's super good. A lot of people need a lot of time to rest in between squats. That's okay. It's a heavy exercise. So let's say you did 5 minutes of rest in between each set on Monday. Let's say a whole week goes by and it's time for you to squat again. This time, instead of resting for 5 minutes between sets, try to rest for 4 minutes between sets. And that's going to implement progressive overload as well too. So don't forget, all of these strategies work on every single exercise. We're not just talking about squats. You can implement these for any exercise you can think of. Okay, now let's go to strategy number 5, which is the last one here, and it's to improve form / time under tension. This is another one that people often forget about too. This one is really spot on too, though, and works really well if you learn how to implement it properly. Basically, for improving form, we'll do it in a squat example as well too. Let's say you're doing your 1 plate, you're doing it for 10 reps, you do it for 3 sets, but let's say that your form is not the greatest. Well, that's okay. Let's say next week you've been practicing your form a little bit during the week. Maybe you've been practicing with a bar or you've been practicing without a bar on your squats. Let's say that last week you felt like you did your 135 pounds for 10 reps and your form was a little janky. Maybe this week you really try to focus on your form and really try to dial it in and really try to perfect it. And that's going to improve your results as well too. Now, the second half of this is time under tension. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the amount of time, in the example of squats, it's the amount of time that you spend under the bar. Pretty much at that bottom half of the exercise, that is where the most tension is for the exercise. So the more time that you can spend down there, the more effective and the better results you're most likely going to get when you're doing a squat. So to give you an example, a lot of guys typically when they squat, sometimes they will squat with the bar and they'll come down pretty fast and they'll hit that bottom, and as soon as they'll hit the bottom, they go right back up, like they shoot back up. That can be okay sometimes, especially if you're looking to squat for performance, but if you're looking to squat for hypertrophy, sometimes it could be better to pause or take that a little bit more time at the bottom part of that exercise to therefore increase your time under tension. So what would that look like? Pretty much you would do your squat, and instead of coming down fast, you would come down a little bit slower. You hit the bottom of your squat where your butt's about to touch the ground, and try and pause. You pause for 1 second, maybe 2 seconds if you can, and you're really locking in that time under tension while you're down there, and then you can shoot back up. So do you see the difference in those two examples? In one example, you get the bar, you get underneath it, you come down pretty quick, you hit the bottom, you shoot right back up, boom, that's a rep. But for an example, when you're focusing on more time under tension, you get underneath your bar, you step out of the rack, you come down a little bit slower, you hit the bottom, you pause, 1, 2, then you get back up. Both examples are okay, and both examples have a time and place for when you can implement them. But most of the time, if you're trying to work on hypertrophy and trying to focus on muscle gain rather than performance, it can be a lot better to focus on perfect form as well as time under tension. So those are the 5 strategies that you can implement typically, and these are the 5 that work the best and the 5 that I recommend to my clients as well too. So the other crucial thing here, the other crucial component is that you need to track your sets, reps, and weights if you want this to work properly. The idea here is that when you are increasing these things, you pretty much need to remember what you did last week. And if you don't remember, then you're just going to forget and you can't figure out how many sets or reps or how long your rest time was last week. So now you're just kind of guessing. So it's pretty simple. What I recommend is that you track them. You track what you do each workout, and you can do that via downloading an app. The one I've been using is called Boost Camp. It's super simple, super easy to use. You just pick your exercise that you're doing, and it fills out a table for you. That way you can type in the sets, reps, and weights and rest period, and it's super easy to do. If you don't want to download an app and you don't want to carry your phone or something, you can do it old school and just grab a pen and paper, maybe a notebook, and you can fill them out that way. But that is it. That's quick. The end of the video, we'll do a quick recap. We went over what progressive overload isn't. We went over what progressive overload actually means. And we went over 5 different strategies on how you can implement progressive overload, as well as the importance of tracking your lifts as well too. So I know that was probably a lot of information. That's okay. If you guys are looking for more information, I do offer a complete A to Z program that is literally designed to help young, natural, skinny guys build drug-free muscle. I'll say that again. If you are a young, natural, skinny guy trying to build drug-free muscle, then this program is literally designed for you and nobody else. So if that sounds like you should definitely check it out. Inside, you'll find guides on nutrition, recovery. I've got guides on mindset as well, which is really important too, because oftentimes a lot of people don't teach mindset. They just teach the basics, like which program and which exercises you could do. So if that type of thing sounds cool to you, check it out down below. Totally free for you to check out. If not, no worries. I will just see you guys in the next video. So thanks for checking in. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you were feeling the video. If not, maybe you can leave a comment and tell me what I could work on more. But in the meantime, I will see you guys on the next one. So peace out.